The time is 6:45. Welcome back to Montana this morning. 68 degrees right now in downtown Billings, but things are bound to get hotter. That'll tell us all about it in a few minutes with his forecast. Let's go ahead and jump into news. Montana Governor Steve Bullock was on the national stage Tuesday night in his first appearance in a Democratic presidential candidate debate. And as MTM's Mike Dennison reports, Governor Steve Bullock mixed it up with the frontrunners, often by trying to portray himself as the more moderate, practical alternative.
In the first of two Democratic candidate debates in Detroit, Bullock shared the stage with liberal firebrands Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren on Tuesday night and 7 other candidates. He didn't waste time drawing distinctions, saying he would not support a Medicare for All health plan favored by Sanders and Warren.
I'm not going to support any plan that rips away quality health care from individuals. This is an example of wish list economics. It used to be just Republicans who wanted to repeal and replace. Now many Democrats do as well.
He also trotted out another oft-used campaign message of his, that of being a Democrat who is progressive yet moderate enough to win in a conservative state.
He's the only one of the field of 37 that actually won a Trump state. 25 to 30% of my voters voted for Donald Trump. I know that we do have to win back some of those places we lost and get those Trump voters back if we're ever going to win.
And when it came time to talk about addressing climate change, Bullock warned against going too hard on the anti-fossil fuel rhetoric, prompting this exchange with Senator Sanders.
No, I think Democrats often when they're saying, oh, these fossil fuel industries, these workers, those coal mining workers, look, the world's changing, we got to make it change. But I think Democrats often sound like the people that, as Congressman Ryan would say, shower at the end of the day, that they're part of the problem. And far too many communities are being left behind as we make this transition. Look, we're having this discussion, and we can talk about competing plans.
Thank you, Governor. I want to give Senator Sanders a chance to respond.
Look, Steve, there ain't nobody in the Congress who's more strongly pro-worker than I am.
But as the evening wore on, CNN moderators often left Bullock out of the discussion for long periods of time. Measured in minutes of exposure, he stood in 7th place out of the 10 candidates. So was Bullock's moment in the debate sun enough to elevate him to the upper tier of Democratic candidates? That we can't know yet. But we do know he's going to need a boost in support if he hopes to make it to the next debate in September. In Helena, I'm Mike Dennison, MTN News.
And 10 more candidates will be on the debate stage tonight in Detroit. Turning now to court news, the man accused of molesting hundreds of male student athletes during decades as an athletic trainer in Miles City is sentenced in federal court. 79-year-old James Jensen will serve 12 years in prison with 3 years of supervised release. While a civil suit and state charges are still in play, Jensen pled guilty back in December to using the internet to entice underage boys to engage in sexual activity. Q2's Andrea Lutz was in the courtroom. She joins us with what happened.
Well, James Jensen walked into a federal courtroom in a khaki jumpsuit. He had on glasses and a shaved head, his health obviously deteriorating. And he told his victims in that courtroom there's no excuse for his actions.
Inside the James Batten Federal Courthouse, where our cameras aren't allowed inside, U.S. District Judge Dana Christensen said this sentence should be sufficient, but not greater than necessary. 12 years with 3 years supervised release for Jensen, but with powerful words for his former trainer, one victim saying that Jensen handed him a life sentence.
It's not enough. 100 years isn't enough for what he did.
32 plaintiffs have come forward in a massive civil suit against Jensen. Their lawyer, John Heenan, saying this federal sentencing closes one door, but others are still open.
We look at this as another chapter done and a bit towards closure. While there's not much to commend about anything about Jensen, the fact that he didn't put the victims through a trial is meaningful.
He developed what he called the program, a way to sexually assault possibly hundreds of teenagers over the years.
James Jensen will be about the age of 95 before he's released from federal custody.
There's so many victims, there's so many times that he did it. It was so calculated and criminal and methodical.
In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
And Jensen will serve his sentence in the Federal Medical Center in Rochester, Minnesota, which is reserved for prisoners with medical needs. Jensen suffers from diabetes and other ailments that have left him frail and wheelchair-bound in previous court appearances. A Missoula man convicted of killing a German foreign exchange student in 2014 will not get a new trial. 5 years ago, Darren Deedy, a Big Sky High School foreign exchange student, entered Marcus Karma's garage for what court documents describe as garage hopping. However, court documents say Karma had set a trap to lure in potential robbers in hopes of killing an intruder in defense of his home. Karma was found guilty of murder and sentenced to 70 years in prison. His most recent appeal was on the grounds of ineffective counsel. However, that appeal has been rejected. New counsel for Karma says it hopes to appeal to the Montana Supreme Court, a process that could take months. The state of Montana won its lawsuit against the IRS to make tax-exempt organizations disclose the identity of individuals who donate more than $5,000. Governor Steve Bullock filed the lawsuit on behalf of the state of Montana nearly a year ago. The lawsuit was filed as a response to the Trump administration's attempt to loosen campaign finance rules. Bullock hailed the decision as a win against dark money in Montana politics, saying in a release, "Days like this are proof that if we stand up and fight for what matters, we can beat Donald Trump and can make the government work for us." The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has reinstated the grizzly bear on the list of endangered and threatened wildlife in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. Back in June of 2017, the service ruled the grizzly bear population no longer met the criteria for being on the endangered list and took them off. But 6 lawsuits were filed in federal court against the move. And on Tuesday, a judge ordered the Fish and Wildlife Service put the bears back on the list. This announcement stops any plans for a grizzly bear hunt in Montana, Idaho, or Wyoming. Congressman Greg Gianforte says this ruling is because of an activist judge siding with environmental extremists instead of following scientific findings. And both of Wyoming's senators say the grizzly is fully recovered in Wyoming and that management belongs to the state. A plane crash is under investigation after a pilot crashed while trying to land at the Roundup Airport. Officials say the pilot was the only person on board. Wreckage from the Canadian-registered Cessna 150 was discovered Tuesday morning. The condition of the pilot has not been released. 4 new fires have been reported in the Helena area as resources are already stretched thin from the 4,600-acre North Hills fire. At least one of these new fires is forcing more evacuations. These lightning-caused fires come just as Lewis and Clark County declares an official emergency in response to the North Hills fire, which is threatening hundreds of homes. This emergency declaration allows the county to receive state and federal assistance. More than 350 people are assigned to fight it. Crews are working to improve fire lines and cooling spots near structures. Evacuees were able to return home briefly to collect important items, but no one was allowed to stay. The fire has come within feet of some homes, but no structures have been lost. Crews are concerned with gusty and erratic winds from thunderstorms, which could create spot fires across the Missouri River. And just outside Missoula, a firefighter was injured while fighting the 211-acre Bees Cove fire. We're told the firefighter is in stable condition. Hotshot crews are building fire lines and 6 helicopters are dropping water to slow the fire's growth. Fire managers expect the lightning-sparked fire will grow to the east and south with uphill runs. The Moss Ranch fire southwest of Ronan is holding steady at just over 5,300 acres and is 60% contained. Tribal officials have hiked the fire danger to very high on the Flathead Reservation as hot and dry weather continues. And with fire season underway, Q2's Zoe Zandora met with the local fire department to find out how you can make your house just a little safer and maybe prevent a fire from spreading and destroying your home.
We're just asking them to just take some common sense action to make their house a little bit more defendable in the event that a fire should come through their area.
Each year, wildland fires consume hundreds of homes in the wildland-urban interface, the zone of transition between wildland and human development. Studies show that as many as 80% of the homes lost to wildland fires could have been saved if their owners had followed a few simple fire-safe practices.
Things start to dry out, even the green grass potentially ignitable because things dry out so quickly. We're into the 1st of August. August is typically a very high temperature month with limited precipitation coming through, so we try to be proactive as much as we can.
Captain Kober of the Lockwood Fire Department says there's no better time than now to prepare and educate your family. With just a few simple tips, you can make your house more fire safe. One of those, limb your trees.
Them from the ground level up to a level where what we refer to as ladder fuels. If there's a fire that's burning through on the grass, it's not going to get into the trees by way of those fuels that are because the trees have now been limbed up and make it a little bit safer. You know, if you've got a fire that's, even if this grass is totally dry and the fire is burning up through here, it's not going to get into the trees because there's no fuel to go up high.
Other simple tips will keep your firewood away from your home and any type of deck to limit the potential for fire spread, and clean out your gutters and make sure they are clear of any pine needles. And when it comes to fire danger, well, Kober says the danger is always there.
At any given moment, things can change real dramatically.
Fires are breaking out in the western part of Montana, and as it stands, we've been pretty lucky here on the eastern part of the state. But as Captain Kober says, things can go from moderate to extreme just like that. In Lockwood, Zoe Zandora, MTN News.
Thank you so much, Zoe. In other news, the silver tsunami is upon us. That was the message from the University of Montana Research and Business Department. They made a stop in Billings Tuesday with a warning about the challenge facing Montana's workforce. A new report from shows Montana has the oldest average workforce in the region. In 2021, the largest number of residents in the state will be the age 66. Patrick Barkey, director of the Bureau of Business and Economic Research, says the aging population spells labor challenges ahead.